Good morning, everyone. I'll get this session started. If you could take a seat, and if I could have the slides. So first up, I'm going to run through the Nronc election procedures. And then once we run through the Nronc election business, we'll move on to the policy SIG. NRO number council elections. This is what I'm going to run through. So voting procedures, counting procedures, declaration and dispute resolution procedures. The composition of the NRONC is defined by the NRO MOU. And it stipulates that there'll be 3 members from each region, one appointed by the board, or in this case the Executive Council of each region, and 2 members selected by the community. Selection process is decided by each RIR, and the link there is to the MOU if you want to read that. So our selection procedure for the community, the 2 community slots seats are determined by the APNIC EC, and as I said, 1 member appointed annually for a 1-year term. So the 2 members that are elected, they're elected today. 1 member elected each year for a 2-year term so that they're staggered. Now, the election procedures are not governed by the APNIC bylaws, but for continuity, we conduct them in a manner described there. So soon we'll have a vacant seat for a 2-year term, which will start from the 1st of January 2015 and run through to the 31st of December 2006. Sorry, 16. There was a call for nominations which ended on the 15th of August. We've had online and on-site voting. So the on-site voting starts today, and I'll cover off all of these. Our election chair will be Mayan, and his responsibilities will be to oversee the election process, appoint the scrutineers, resolve disputes, and declare the election results. We have 2 election officers, George and Connie. They're appointed by the APNIC Executive Council, and they're selected from the Secretariat staff. Their responsibilities are to administer the call for nominations, which they have done, manage the online and on-site voting processes, supervise the ballot collection, perform the vote counting with the election tellers, and retrieve the online voting reports. So the election tellers are Anna and Tom. Again, they're appointed by the APNIC EC and selected from staff. And their responsibilities are to supervise the ballot box, issue the ballot papers, which I believe they've already started doing. They'll validate and count the votes and report the results to the election chair. We've got 2 election scrutineers, Andrew and Sergio. They're appointed by the election chair, and they're selected from staff of other ISTAR organisations, RIRs, ICANN or ISOC, whoever happens to be on site and is willing to do the work. So they can't vote, they don't vote, and they've got to be independent from APNIC members or the candidates. Their responsibilities are to observe the election tellers while they're counting the votes, but they don't handle or touch the ballot papers. And importantly, they notify the election chair in case of any anomaly or issue. The online voting period ran from Monday the 1st of September and ended on Tuesday the 16th of September. It was accessible via My APNIC, and each member organisation had 1 vote. The system preserves anonymity, storing a record of who has voted and a separate record of votes cast. On-site voting will start once the election chair calls the election open and will end today at 2 p.m. our time, Brisbane time. Each registered APNIC 38 attendee is entitled to 1 vote as an individual. So that's very important. You have to be a community member, not a member. So you don't need to be an APNIC member. If there's more than one individual from a member organisation, you're each entitled to your own vote. So it's a little bit different from our APNIC EC elections. I've got a question, so I'll just stop and address that straight away, so in case there's a confusion.
What if you represent multiple members?
You get one vote, unless you did it online previously. Okay. The voting desk is set up outside this room, outside the policy SIG meeting room. The ballot box is placed on the voting desk after the election chair announces the beginning of voting. And I think we usually bring it up here and show that it's empty. The election tellers supervise, so that's Anna and Tom, supervise the ballot box at all times, and inquiries should be directed to the election officers at the voting desk. The voting ballot paper has voting instructions on it and is marked with a unique stamp. So it will be counted as, the vote will be counted as invalid if there are no boxes marked, if there's more than one box marked, if the mark is ambiguous, or if it doesn't have the stamp. Okay, so that's only one person you're voting for. It's not preferential voting, just one person. It'll look like that. We had a candidate withdraw his candidacy on the 4th of September, and that's been reflected in the ballot paper. It has to be green too, I gather. So once we've closed the voting period, we'll start counting, and the process is supervised by the election scrutineers. So the votes are counted by the tellers, the papers are checked, the tally forms are used to count, record and verify the total number of check marks for each candidate, and then cross-checked with the other teller. Online voting reports are printed during the vote count. So while we're counting the physical votes, we download the online reports. The votes for each candidate are calculated by combining the two online and on-site votes. The election chair will announce the election results at around 1500, 3 p.m. today. Now we say around, that's the scheduled time. The scheduled time for the declaration is at 3 p.m. In respect for the policy SIG and the policy process, if we're in the middle of something important, we'll delay the declaration until that. So if we're in the middle of discussing a policy proposal, we won't interrupt it to do the election result. We'll just delay the election result a little. But the scheduled time, and it's important, the scheduled time is 3 p.m. So the declaration, when it's made, will include the name and total vote count of each candidate. It'll include the total number of valid and invalid ballots. It'll include notices of any disputes and the resolutions, and disclosure of any communication from the election scrutineers regarding any anomaly or issue, if raised. So a notice of a dispute, any complaint regarding the conduct of the election must be lodged in writing to the election chair, to Mayanne, at the conference. It must be lodged no later than 1 hour before the scheduled declaration. So as I said, the scheduled declaration is 3, so your deadline for any issues would be 2 p.m. Notices may be lodged by members through their authorised voting representatives or candidates directly with the election chair. The election chair shall resolve the dispute at his discretion. The election chair shall provide notice of all lodged disputes, as I said, and the chair's decision at the declaration of the election. Do we have any questions? Okay, that's good. So I'd like to invite our election chair up, Mayanne, to deal with the candidate statements. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So this is my end. I'm coming from Beijing University Post and Telecommunications, currently acting as the APNIC EC. So it's my pleasure to working with all of you to have a successful election. Now, before I invite the nominees to give their speeches, I would like to mention that the roles and the responsibilities of NRO numbering council members. So you can find them on the NRC webpage listed on the slides. Any slides available? Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. So the duties of NRO-NC members oversees the recommendations on global IP policy, address policy that result from the various IR's policy development process, have direct influence on the implementation of these policies, and participate in the management of policy development activities, and also appointing people to the ICANN board of directors. And also they have obligations and also have the responsibilities. So in more detail, I won't go every detail. So those detailed information will be available on the web page for your reference. I suppose all of the nominees already read it through and taking the responsibility. I'm now going to invite the nominees up to the stage to share their vision and with you and introduce themselves to you. After that, I will open the ballot box and show you that there is nothing inside the ballot box. And then George Cole and I will take the box outside to the voting desk, and there's where the voting will start quite soon. So in order of nominations received, I would like to introduce the nominees to you.
Next slide.
Yeah, next slide. So these are the nominees we received, except the withdrawal. So we have 7 candidates. The first nominee is Suman Ahmed Sabir. Unfortunately, he's unable to come to the Brisbane this time. So he will provide a statement, and Sunny will read it out on his behalf. Thank you, Sunny.
Okay, this is the statement from Suman Ahmed Sabir. Distinguished netizens, first of all, my sincere apology for not being in Brisbane to attend APNIC 38 due to a very last-minute issue. I'm in the internet industry for the last 18 years in many different roles as network engineer, CTO, CEO of ISPs and network company. Also as a consultant in developing internet infrastructure, an officer bearer of ISP Association of Bangladesh for developing policy framework in Bangladesh and entire South Asia region. As a citizen of least developed country, I realize the importance of internet infrastructure for my country. As part of it, I have been involved in setting up local neutral internet exchange points named BDIX and represent it in most of the APIX meetings. To create opportunities for learning and sharing internet best practices, to know the recent developments and to meet with the global internet leaders, SANOG played a significant role in South Asia region. I have been involved with SANOG from the very beginning as organizer and as a co-chair. To move further, this year we have formed BDNOG, this Bangladesh Network Operators Group. Here also I'm chairing the board of trustee with a good number of world-renowned network professionals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sunny. The first one, and then the next one is Natin Janardhan Navi withdraws the candidates on the 4th September. So we will go past this one. The next nominee is Craig Fonty, and he is provide a brief. Sunny, please also read it out. Okay, Adam, please.
I'm going to give Sunny a bit of a break.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Biography. Greg Fonty has been involved with the internet from the early 1980s and has vast experience in all aspects of the internet industry and has dealt with or worked with the multitude of different sectors in the telecommunications industry. Greg has worked in the Asia-Pacific region with both telecommunication and internet service providers, providing advice across a wide spectrum of areas including interconnection, certification bodies, submarine cables, and telecommunications fraud. Greg believes he brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to hold a position on the Number Resource Organisation, NRO Number Council, NC. Possessing an understanding of the value of teamwork and encouraging a participatory approach to solving and providing insight into the numerous issues that are raised and the need to have a resolution that is equitable and of commercial value. Greg holds a master's degree in entrepreneurship and innovation and believes this enables his ongoing approach to be innovative in approach and solution solving. Presently also working as registered Australian government lobbyist and has worked with numerous governments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Then the next one is Ahmad Salman. He's unable to come to Brisbane, and he was not provided a statement yet. So would anyone here would like to say a few words for him? If no, people can consider what's going on. And the next one is Mirza After Ali Bank. He is not able to attend also in person. So he has provided a statement. Stanley, would you so please read out? Thank you.
Hello, my dear friends. I'm excited my statement is being read in front of my global community friends. It's an honor and privilege with the opportunity, and thanks to APNIC to make it all happen. If being an NC member, I'm committed to maintain and improve robust mechanisms to oversee recommendations on global IP address policy, accountability, and transparency so as to ensure that the outcomes of its decision-making will reflect the public interest. Further, to contribute in the policy development activities to facilitate enhanced cross-community deliberations and effective and timely policy development. Thank you. Sorry, just a page over. The next and the final key is with you guys, and I hope a best favor with your vote. I'll be honored to serve as an NC member on behalf of my regional community. I have great feelings for my global community, and I am committed to do best of mine. Thank you very much.
The next one is Sanal Sumro. He's not able to attend in person also. He has also provided a statement. So, Ella, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellencies, honourable speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the excellencies and honourable guests to be attending the 38th APNIC Conference and Policy SIG. I shall not take more time and shall share a little introduction for me. My name is Sanola Sumru. Apologies, I probably got that wrong. And currently I am Senior Network Engineer at Pakistan Telecommunication Company Limited. I have an expertise in IP MPLS field for more than a decade. Remained associated with various ISPs in the past and as well delivered lectures over IP MPLS and datacom fields in various universities, colleges, and over different organisations of Pakistan. Pakistan Telecommunication Company Limited, called as PTCL, is a mega corporation and a leading telecommunications company in Pakistan. The corporation provides telephonic and internet services nationwide and is the backbone for country's telecommunication infrastructure, despite arrival of a dozen other telecommunications corporations. The corporation manages and operates around more than 2,000 telephone exchanges across the country, providing the largest fixed line network. Data and backbone services such as GSM, CDMA, broadband internet, IPTV, wholesale are an increasing part of its business. The URL www.ptcl.com.pk have all such information on it. Herein last, I would like to heartily congratulate in advance for the candidate who will win this NRO election. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the last one, so I would like to invite Dr. Ajay Kumar. Yeah, he have sent a video statement. Thank you, Ajay. Please.
Namaskar and greetings to all of you. I am Dr. Ajay Kumar from India and I am contesting the elections for the open seat on the NRO-NC. I want to begin by thanking Dr. Paul Wilson, one of the most distinguished leaders of APNIC community, who has very kindly extended this opportunity for this video message. It's a matter of great honor for me to address this outstanding community of experts, including some very distinguished leaders such as Akinori-san, the Executive Council, and other dignitaries such as Dr. Philip Smith, Andy Linton, Tomohiro Fujisaki, Dean Pemberton, John Brozowski, Judith Dubovit Vasquez, Randy Bush, and Izumi Okutani. Today, I hope to share with you the experiences and influences that have shaped my professional outlook, my reasons for contesting this post, and my mission for fulfilling the goals of APNIC if elected to this position. First, some background. As an officer of the Indian Administrative Services, I have spent nearly 3 decades working at multiple levels in the government and civil administration. Currently, I am leading the e-infrastructure and internet governance areas for the Government of India, where my responsibilities include formulating India's positions on policies and technical issues relating to internet proliferation and governance. I remain closely involved in the National Internet Registry initiative, including the launch of .Bharat internationalized domain name. I also represent India on the Government Advisory Committee of ICANN. Friends, as an engineer by training from the Indian Institute of Technology and a PhD in business administration from the University of Minnesota, I learned the importance of keeping one's mind open to continued learning and through that contribution to the society. During my work in the government, I learned the importance of working across aisles, building consensus, but most importantly, ensuring inclusive, informed, and incisive dialogue amongst stakeholders. I sincerely hope to place these learnings to further the objective of this post. Now for the reasons as to why I believe this role is important. Asia Pacific constitutes 56 countries, but unlike any other region in the world, with a population of 3.9 billion, it exhibits diversity that closely reflects the challenge that we face in India on a daily basis. With an internet penetration of merely 32% in Asia, APNIC has a tremendous role to play through its policies, not to just enhance internet penetration in the region, but in fact, change people's lives. It's the range and scope of this challenge which motivated me to place my candidature for this position. Finally, my mission, if elected, is to both learn and to contribute to the tremendous knowledge that already exists in this room, to bring to you our learnings from connecting the next billion Indians to the internet while executing India's ambitious Digital India program. In turn, I hope to learn from you the process of formulating policies and technical standards consistent with global bodies such as Address Council and the ICANN. I firmly believe that a confluence of my academic research, my work, and my personal beliefs will inform my role if elected to the post of NRO-NC. Friends, if you consider my candidature appropriately suited for this prestigious assignment, then I humbly seek your support as a member of your community. I thank you for your time and eagerly look forward to meeting with you in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Ajay, Dr. Ajay. We really appreciate your commitment. Now we finish our introduction of those nominees. We're coming to the next stage. Now, this is the open box. Where's the open box? On the box? Okay. Yeah. John. Okay, this is the ballot box. Open it. And this is the you see it's empty inside. It's probably enough. It It's firm enough to hold all the ballot box papers. Then we will seal it. Put it on side. Seems easy. The last vote. Okay, so this is our ballot box. George and I will move it to the front desk, to the voting desk, until the end of our voting process. And everybody will take your time and to put all your ballot paper inside. We'll also, APNIC sector will also counting the online votes together. So we'll announce that the timeline. Really, I'd like to remind you the ending of the ballot paper is before 2 p.m. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so this is the end of the NC election starting process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, man. If I could have the SIG administration slides up, please. So this is the beginning of the policy SIG meeting for APNIC 38. First item on the agenda is the policy SIG co-chair election. Normally this would be convened by the policy SIG chair, Andy Linton, who's unfortunately unable to join us at this meeting as he's working in the Northern Hemisphere at the moment. So hopefully we'll see him back here for the next meeting. So I propose that I stand in place to run this election, and if anyone has any complaints, please let me know in a couple of minutes. The position that's up for election is currently held by Masato Yamanishi, who I'm sure you all know well, and as it turns out, he was the only candidate for the position. So according to the SIG guidelines, two things. If there is a candidate, an election must be held, and I'll come to the second one next. So what I'm proposing to do is I'm proposing that the community elects Masato as co-chair of the APNIC policy SIG through acclamation. So if he has your support, if you can just give him a round of applause, and I'll ask him to come up to the podium. So the other thing in the APNIC SIG guidelines is that an outgoing chair or co-chair would be asked to continue the policy development process for any active proposals. And so I just want to make this point. If there had been more than one candidate and if Masato hadn't been successfully voted in, he would still have been the chair of this meeting because he has current proposals under his stewardship. But we would have had two co-chairs as such. So I just want to make that, just in case it happens in the future, that's how we would handle it. In this case, Masato will be acting chair in Andy's place as per the SIG guidelines. And sorry, I should have been using my slides. And we'll, so there's one candidate. It took me ages to do that slide. So I'd like to hand you over to Masato now.
Okay, thank you very much for your support for my another term. And since we only have 60 minutes in this morning session, but we have two items which we would like to discuss. We would like to have community discussion, and also we have introduction confer, which is consensus measurement tool, new one. So I want to make this administration slide as short as possible. Then today's agenda. Oh, sorry, this one has not yet updated anything. That's okay. I can explain. In this session, we already have co-chair election. This one is the SIG administration slide, and we also have we would like to have a discussion about APNIC survey result, which was published yesterday. This one will be our next item. And second next will be a community discussion on consensus as shown in the fourth bullet item. Then, sorry, we changed the order in last night, but forget to change the slide. Anyway, so after that, we will have third one, which is launch of Confer, introduction of the Confer. Then we moved fifth item to afternoon session. So that's these things are agenda item in this morning. And in afternoon, we will have secretariat report on implementation and also secretariat report on policy documentation. Then ASO/AC advice about I think 2-byte and whole-byte AES. And also, we will have policy discussion about Prop 111. And last one is a update about LibNCC's inter-alliance transfer. Then after that, we will have announce of NRO-NC election result. Okay. Adam have already explained Andy cannot come to this meeting, so it's only me in here, and I will work as acting chair of this session. And we also need to mention about current NRO-NC, and where's after? Oh, wait. Oh, here. Aftab, can you stand up? Here's Aftab. Then next is Naresh. Still your NRO-NC. Yeah, then his term will end at the end of this year. So thank you very much for your service until. And last one is Fujisaki-san. Okay. So next one is our action items. First one is action item 3501, which was Prop 105. It proposed distribution of return IPv4 address blocks from IANA. Then it reached consensus at APNIC 36, which was second last meeting in last year, and it was waiting IANA. It was waiting the distribution from IANA, but it's done in this spring. So it was implemented on May 27th in this year. So this action item was closed. And second one is the Prop 107, which proposed AS number transfer. Then it also reached consensus in the same meeting. Then it was implemented on April 16 of this year. So this action item was also closed. Then next one is a Prop 111, which we will discuss in this afternoon. So this one is returned to author right now. Then we will have a discussion in this afternoon. Then 3701. This one is a Prop 119. Then it proposed allocating these two subnets to APNIC labs. And it was reached consensus at last meeting. Then it's also implemented on this May. So this one is closed. So right now we don't have any current, we only have this one, which is Prop 111 as open action item. Okay, policy development process. This is policy SIG charter, which says develop policies and procedures which relate to the management and use of internet address resources by APNIC, NIRs, and ISPs within the Asia Pacific region. Then we have mailing list and web page as shown in this slide. And these are steps to proposal implementation. First thing is, of course, proposal should be submitted. And second one is having discussion on the mailing list before the meeting. And today we have a discussion about proposal in this open policy meeting. And also we ask consensus in here. Then tomorrow, if proposal will lead to consensus at this meeting, it will also be asked consensus in AMN in tomorrow. Then it leads to consensus again. It will have comment period to confirm consensus. Then we change, I forgot, it was defined PDP or SIG guideline? PDP, yeah. We changed PDP in last meeting. So now comment period is between 4 to 8 weeks, and chair will decide how long is appropriate for each proposal. Then after that, we will get EC endorsement, and it will be implemented. Okay, this is a description of consensus. Consensus means a general agreement taking into consideration comments on the mailing list and the meeting. Then show of hands is a way of broadly gouging up opinion. Then comments via remote participants are welcome. Then we also have an example from IETF. It says a very large majority of those who care must agree, and also strongly held objections must be debated until most people are satisfied that these objections are wrong. We will revisit these description after later half of this session. So minor objections or some problems may occur for some members of the group, and major objections means major problems will occur for parts of the community. So these are references. That's all as the administration slide. Is there any comment or questions? Okay, let me go to the next one. Next one is survey result discussion. As you may know, APNIC survey result was published yesterday, and it has some questions asked about policy SIG and also PDP. So I would like to pick up related topics to us, and also want to have a community discussion about these. First question is satisfaction with content of the APNIC Secretariat's reporting in. And actually, report about policy development is located at the middle of these other items. So it means it's so-so. And reporting policy development is a responsibility of chairs and the secretariat. So we will discuss how we can improve this one internally, then report or implement it. Okay. Then next one is the assessment of APNIC's policy development process. So it means people. I forget to mention about one thing. First, a couple of slides shows answers from members. Okay. Then, this one, yeah. So this one is question is assessment of APNIC's PDP for number resources. And we have a couple of sub-questions, but answer is almost 5 plus something. 5 means they're a little bit satisfied, but we also, lower part also shows distribution of answers, and you can find that actually highest numbers are neutral. So in words, it means so-so, right? So I think we need to consider how we can improve these points: ease of understanding, ease of participation, ease of following progress of discussions. And next question is quite interesting. Do you think that the use of English language poses a barrier to your ability to participate in APNIC discussions? Then, even though 65% people said no, but still more than 25% people said yes. So we have, it seems we have some barrier. We have some language barrier. Then next one is a more detailed question. So this one says communications from APNIC would be most beneficial to you if they were translated into your language. And actually, policy proposal is located at the top, okay? And also policy discussions located at fourth, but it's slightly less, it has slightly less percentage compared to policy proposal. So I think, well, one second, I only have three more slides. Oh, you want to say something? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just clarification question. My name is Tomohiro Fujisaki. Just for clarification, how many members answer this question? I want to know total sample. Could you show me the previous slide? Sorry, one more. Next slide. The number on the color bar is the number of members?
I think so.
Okay, so total number is
Maybe
300
so yeah. A little bit less than 500.
Yes, it's okay, thank you.
So 500, more than 100 answers to yes for this question, maybe. Yeah, that's good, quite good point. Then from next slide, they showed answers from non-members. Then this one is thinking of your interaction with APNIC, how you would relate. And regarding APNIC PDP, it's a little bit less satisfaction compared with other items like training, public information services, or conferences. And also, other items have more satisfaction, like shown as, for example, APNIC training has 99 people who answered to very satisfied, but we only have 61 for that category. So it's also so-so, okay? Then that one is also another quite interesting answers. The question was, APNIC's PDP is open to anyone. Does your organization actively participate in APNIC policy development? And 42, almost 43% people answered to no for this question. So I think we have some gap in here. Okay, that's all I have for this topic. Then I'd like to ask your comment or questions. Also want to have a discussion about this topic.
Dean Pemberton, Internet NZ. I think I'm really intrigued by the question of, you know, does having all the proceedings in English affect your ability to interact? Because I think while there's 29% of people said that it did, I really think that question is skewed. I think that there would be a much larger percentage of our community that would find it beneficial. So if we just, that one there. Mm-hmm. I think that question is so self-selecting, right? So you've got people who are reading the entire survey in English and the questions in English. And correct me if I'm getting that wrong, right? So you've already got people who speak English well, who care about this stuff. And it's not surprising that 66% of them said that there was no problem. Bad. if we could work out another way of finding out what the true answer to this is, I think we'd come closer to finding out that we actually need to do some things to foster a little bit more diversity. Thank you.
Hi, this is Gaurav Upadhyay. Actually, if you were here last evening for the presentation of the survey results, one of the questions was, would you like APNIC to translate stuff? And if yes, what? The number one request was policy material. So, the different part of the survey asked this question probably differently, and was told that policy material was something they would like to see translated. But I don't recall offhand what percentage of people said that, and so. But you're right. I mean, maybe by everybody who participates in this process is already, speaking in English, and don't see a problem.
Mm-hmm. Toshio?
Yes. I'm Toshio Tachibana. I'm chair of the Policy Development Forum in Japan. So could you show the next slide for that? Sure. I'm sorry for I'm sorry for the next door. Participating question, participate question over there from non-member. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. This one.
Yes. This slide shows the. Do you have an interest for the policy discussion within the APNIC region? So the 42% and people is no. So we can understand for the another point is a language barrier. Is almost people is not feeling the language barrier is English. No interesting because there are no barrier of using English. Is answer only the yes people. Only 25% of people can answer to the language barrier. Is we have a language barrier or not? It's no surprise for that. Important things is how can we involve the don't know people involved to the discussion. I'm sorry for that. That's all. That's comment.
Yeah, I forget about the mention about don't know of this slide. Yeah, certainly almost one third people answer don't know. I think it means they don't know how to participate, or what does it mean? Maybe different people from same organization may participate in discussion, but the person who answered for this survey don't know, doesn't know, maybe.
Dean Pemberton, Internet NZ. I think there's many different ways that organisations participate in this policy forum, and that for certain countries you have almost an aggregation effect. So there's a lot of talk within their local communities about what they may feel or think about the policies, and then a couple of people come along and actively participate. Now, part of that could be down to the language barrier. If you've got a couple of people within your local community that speak English very well and participate within this forum very well, then everyone else is going to put their views forward to that person, but they may feel that they don't directly participate. So they might be feeding their views in, but when you ask a question like this, does your organisation actively participate? The answer might be no. So you might find that their views are getting towards this forum, but for whatever reason they aren't participating directly. I know a lot of New Zealand organisations, for instance, aren't in this room here, haven't posted on the mailing list, but have spoken to me about what they think their opinions are on the policies. So we do get this aggregation effect.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not so unclear why people doesn't participate to development process from this survey. So the survey is once per 2 years, I think. So I think we cannot wait next one. Well, we should do something before that. But anyway, I think language may be one of major barrier for participation, I think. Paul, go ahead.
Paul Wilson from APNIC. I've got a question for the audience about how to handle translation, because it is an expensive process. It's a time-consuming process, and it's also, in order to do it accurately in our context, it needs quite a lot of concern about accuracy of terminology and the nuances of policies and so forth. So,
one second. Oh, it's going. Okay, go ahead.
So I would be interested to know about what approach would be feasible and efficient and affordable, and whether some community participation in that, in the translation activity, might be possible in order to bring down the cost and make sure that the translations are well vetted, well checked by the community to make sure that they're accurate.
Did you say translation is expensive or inexpensive?
It's expensive.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me say my comment. But I think simultaneous translation is very expensive, but document translation is not.
Well, we have done some translation of documents, annual report and so forth, and there's a cost involved with that. I think probably, I said it's both expensive, and it is costly to some extent, but it's also the accuracy, which is something to be concerned about. And I think possibly some crowdsourcing or some collaborative approach might be useful if the community thinks it's worth pursuing that, and if members would like to be involved with that. Thanks.
Isami from APNIC. I very much agree with Paul's observation that once the translation is done, you really have to double check, because especially in this area, nobody is, who's doing the translation is an expert in this area. So you have to make sure the word that they translate is really in the context of address policies. So as most people know, APNIC actually helps in doing the translation of the policy proposals, and then we share that with our community. And I wonder if there are other entities in other economies, not just the NIRs, but maybe somebody from an operational community who is watching these discussions may be able to help in spreading the words in your own language within the community. That might be more helpful than just systematically doing the translation. My 2 cents.
One second. Is Okutani-san or Tachibana-san, can you explain how JP community discussing about APNIC policy proposal? I think we have both of downstream and also upstream. Yeah, downstream means introducing APNIC proposal to country side, and upstream is discussing proposal before proposing to discussing proposal domestically before proposing to APNIC.
I'm Toshiro. The proposal that affect only within the NIR region, then we discuss and we try to reach a consensus or not. So then we comment and we recommend to the implement to the NIR. If the proposal that if affect to the need to consensus to the Asian Pacific region, then we discussed within the NIR community, then proposer may propose to the Asian Pacific region after the NIR discussion. Is this an answer for you?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Also, there, at another hand, before the APNIC meeting, and propose for the APNIC region, so we get the information about the proposal for the APNIC region. Then we hold the collecting the opinion for the APNIC discussion before the APNIC meeting. At this time, regularly. So, is this my comment? Izumi-san, could you?
I think Toshio has shared the overall picture very well. And just to add a little bit in the context of language, when we have proposals from APNIC, we translate it and then share that on the mailing list first. And then if we feel that it's important enough that we need face-to-face opportunity to have discussions in Japanese about proposals coming up at APNIC meeting, then as Toshio mentioned, we hold face-to-face meetings so that our community can have discussions in Japanese, share their thoughts, and then we put that input back into the APNIC forum. That's one way of sharing APNIC's proposal. And then there's another side to it. There might be some ideas for policy proposals within our community in Japan, and in that case, we have discussions in Japanese, draft and reach consensus in Japanese, and then we bring this to APNIC forum to propose in the overall APNIC region.
Yeah, I think the reason why I asked it, I think that's one possible ways to extend participation from non-native speakers instead of just translating document or discussion. Naresh, go ahead.
Naresh Ajwani. The word engagement, unfortunately, is not limited to only language. Mm-hmm. And the evidence is our example of APNIC. That's one example. It's not about the language. It is about championing the engagement of APNIC in Japan. The class example, which is being seconded, is by National Internet Registry of India. Earlier, there were only 400 members. Today, there are over 1,100 members of this Internet Registry. So if we just limit ourselves to language aspect, I don't think it will really help us, because definitely what Paul said, it is a costly affair. So in my viewpoint, we have 56 economies. Can we identify 56 champions? I'm not saying there is need to have a national internet registry and in the process make an impact on the global thinking and a global thought process what Paul has brought in through this APNIC. That has to be maintained, because unlike telecom, when I say telecom is mobile or a telephone, it is not a national affair. It is a global thing, and I keep saying everywhere, till the time we will say internet governance, it will really limit everything. We have to evolve this word internet to virtual world governance. Then the entire viewpoint and looking at the aspect and thinking that how important is the global engagement will be much more better or effectively explained to the people. So my request would be, we can have the surveys, and I'm not saying that I'm against any survey, but let's not have a survey where we create a emperor's clothes. We just listen and talk what we want to hear. And we know about, and the story of emperor's clothes is not from my country, from Japan. So we all know what he was actually wearing, right? So my submission would be, let's change the approach. And I'm sorry, as I mentioned, this is my last APNIC, but I would definitely like to make one proposition, that we find out 56 champions across our Asia-Pacific continent, and engage them to promote what we are really doing out here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comment? Especially, I want to hear a comment from non-native speakers.
Yeah, I'd like to know how many people on the Jabber, remote participation, and any feedback from those members outside of venue.
Yeah, right now we have exactly 17 participants, roughly 20 participants in average in this session. Then one person said something, but he or she also said doesn't want to mention on the mic. So, so there is no public, there is no official comment.
Okay, I'm Dr. Govind from India. I will just supplement what Mr. Naresh Ajwani said, that there has to be champions from these 56 economies, what he said. But I think language is one of the hurdles to understand the engagement, to get to the people for engagement. So like internationalized domain names coming up in the ICANN, the websites are coming up in the local languages, so the contents also needs to be developed in the local languages for larger communities who are not English is not their native language. So in this respect, I will say that there should be a great movement should be there in the APNIC and in the ICANN, where the larger communities, which are, because the issues are not only the numbers and names, but also the internet governance. Issues are also coming up in a big way. So there is a need to understand the communities which are still not connected, and even if they are connected, how the local content is going to be relevant, and how the internet, the global internet governance is going to be relevant. So in that context, the localization of the content, some of these policies, if you can make them through certain means, not the full translation, but the relevant part of those policies which can be translated into the local popular languages of the countries, any of these economies, that will help grow the internet in a much bigger, and the policies will be developed more comprehensively. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, it's running out of time, so I want to make Skip as last commenter. Go ahead, Skip.
This is just a quick comment. It's clear that there is many reasons that there has been minimal involvement, especially with the amount of languages in our region. I understand Paul's position that the translation process can be very expensive, but I guess that's a matter of how it's approached. Certainly live translation would be extremely expensive. I've been at events where there's been 15 translators doing things in different language. I think we had significant translation in Busan as well, in quite a number of languages, and that was very interesting and I'm sure expensive. These days with the facilities we've got on the internet, it's not that hard in a lot of the publications, policy, questionnaires, surveys, to actually translate this. There are services that in other organisations I've used, things like OneSky, that are professional crowdsourced translation platforms. So where you can quickly upload, let's say we did the survey and we wanted that translated into 25 languages. That, with the amount of people involved and the size of the community, that could actually be done very quickly, within days, if not weeks. You propose text for the actual questions, people in those native speakers of those languages who understand English or the source language, and you can get them translated into other things. Those collaborative platforms are actually extremely cheap, as opposed to hiring full translators, which one of the points that I thought was very significant that Paul said was trusting that translation. Do we trust one Japanese speaker, one Hindu speaker, some other speaker to translate an entire document, as opposed to letting the entire, say, Japanese community very quickly vote and crowdsource a translation of a large document like the survey, and that could be done very quickly at a minimal cost and minimal involvement across many dozens of people. So I believe there are different ways to do some of these things. Certainly in the in the process that we're talking about. I realise that we have an economy of some 56, a region of some 56 economies, and that there is going to be, is even inside those, there's many languages like China. I'm struggling in a project at the moment with Cantonese, Chinese, Taiwanese, and so many other different variations. But there's so many people involved in this community, especially remote, that shouldn't actually be a significant cost if the community itself can translate that. And that means there's no dominant person at all that can be responsible for the translation, because the speakers of that language can be responsible very quickly.
Okay, so let me wrap up. So regarding the language barrier, I think nobody object for this barrier, but it also seems it also seems not only language barrier, but also culture barrier, or various factors are related. So simple translation may not resolve this issue. So we need to consider one of possible ways are calling volunteer for each communities as translation or introduction, each proposal within their countries. Also, I think we also need to consider is there any, whether there is other possible ways or not. Then another point is this one. Oh, sorry, I skipped too much. But anyway, from non-member point of view, it's participation is not. It seems not so easy. But right now, we don't have any clear understanding why they don't or they cannot participate. So we need to do. We need to find these reasons. Is this okay as wrap up of this item? Okay. Oh, I always forget to check chat room. Anyway, so let me go to next one. Next one is our community discussion on consensus. Yep. Actually, okay. So I think everybody agreed that consensus is very important part of PDP, but I'm not sure we already described what is consensus very well in current document or not. So I'd like to have discussion about this point. Then these three documents are documents which we have today. First one is, of course, PDP, and second one is SIG guidelines, and third one is a SIG administration slide, which I just presented in this session. And actually, SIG administration slides are not official document, but it's a best current practice by current chairs. Then in PDP section, we have quite few related description about consensus. And section 1 says PDP's policies are developed by the membership and the broader internet community through a bottom-up process. And also anyone may attend the meetings and participate in discussions and the decision making. And also, but problem of this section is there is no descriptions about remote participants. It just says meetings, so I'm not sure it means physical meeting or it also includes remote meeting. And another part is section 4, and it says, section 4 is proposal process, so it lists up each processes, and step 2 is a consensus at the OPM, but it just says consensus is defined as general agreement as observed by the chair of the meeting. That's all in the PDP. So I'm not sure From my personally, I think I'm not sure it is enough as PDP or not. No, this one. Then step 4 is actually have more description about consensus, but actually it's a step for confirming consensus. So it means it is last call. So it says consensus is assumed to continue unless there are substantial objections. And it also says, I think, yeah, it doesn't say what is substantial objections, but at least it mentioned about what is the trigger to breaking consensus. But as I said, it's not consensus at the OPM. It is consensus for last comment period. Then in SIG guidelines, section 1.7 says about consensus, defines consensus, but it says consensus is achieved when everyone consents to the decision of the group. So it means it doesn't say everyone consents to the content of the proposal, even if some people personally against for the proposal. If he or she can agree to the decision of the group, it is consensus. Okay. Then SIG guideline also have appendix about basic steps in the consensus decision-making process. Now, actually, it describes more, like chair will assess the level of interest, and the show of hand is not a vote. It is a way of broadly gauging opinion. Oh, anyway, it's clearly said show of hands, so I'm not sure it covers confer, which we are introducing in this session or not. Then another point is this appendix also describes what is minor objections and what is major objections. I think it's pretty good descriptions, but it is appendix of the SIG guideline. So I'm not sure this level of, how can I say, this position, this position is correct position. Because the description of minor objections and major objections is pretty important description, I think. But it's located in appendix of SIG guideline, not part of policy. Then, last one is SIG administration slide. And first 2 items are actually captured from SIG guidelines, but it also says comments via remote participation are welcome. But actually, it is only description about remote participants, which we have currently. So I think we need to add some description in other document also. Also, we picked up IETF TAO as example definitions, but second bullet item of this one says strongly held objections must be debated until most people are satisfied that these objections are wrong. But I think this kind of debate can have in IETF because they are technical discussion. But I'm not sure it is always doable in our discussion because our discussion is a policy discussion, not only technical things, right? We need to cover operational, and we also need to consider fairness between stakeholders. So I'm not sure about this point. Oh no, I always use wrong keyboard. Anyways, then we also have a small description about minor objections and major objections. But I think this one captured from SIG guidelines, so it's pretty same. So discussion point. First one is current descriptions in PDP is enough or not? As shown, SIG guidelines or SIG administration slides have more descriptions. So I think we need to consider we can capture something from these two documents to PDP. And also, we have descriptions about major and minor objections, but I would like to discuss with, is there any space for improvement of these descriptions? And third one is which is appropriate level of describing major minor objections, right? As I said, currently it's located in appendix of the SIG guideline. Then the fourth one is how we can describe about remote participants. Current one covers, well, current one covers remote participants well or not, or do we need to add something? And fifth one is a quite similar question, but it is about e-consensus, actually confer, if we will use it. And I also would like to ask, is there any other points which we need to discuss about consensus descriptions? So that's the presentation. That's the presentation about that's my presentation about consensus descriptions. And if you have any comments or questions, or please come to the microphone right now. Oh, I didn't expect nobody come. So everybody quite comfortable for current description?
You have consensus.
We have consensus that there's no consensus on your consensus discussion.
So, well, let me ask more specific question for each point, and especially fourth one and fifth one is quite precise, quite detailed, I think. So, how do you think? Do we need to add remote explicitly? Do we need to add remote description about remote participants explicitly, or we don't need?
Isami from APNIC, I personally don't see the need to differentiate between remote participation and on-site because it's the same.
Okay, so you think current description also covers remote participants?
I think so, and the reason why I didn't really stand up and make any comments is that I think what you explained basically makes sense to me, and I was quite happy with the description.
Okay. Is there any other comment about remote participants? Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's worth us looking at the documents that you've referenced there as an outsider. As a member of this community and a member of the policy SIG, we're actually all pretty happy with the way it works, and that's great, and everyone is comfortable. I wonder if someone from another industry came along, or someone who is accustomed to a different governance structure came along. And I know I've had, I remember at our last meeting in Petaling Jaya, we had a student who was doing a thesis on decision-making, and he was quite shocked and confused at what happened in the policy SIG. And he came to me afterwards and said, how did that happen? I don't understand the result. How did we get to where? And I go, well, that's how it works. And I tried to explain it to him, and it is quite shocking to people who aren't familiar with it. And so I wonder if I mean, while I understand Izumi's point of view, is she feels comfortable with it. From the kind of a point of an outsider, evaluating APNIC's policy processes, which others may do from time to time, to see whether they're robust and are truly multi-stakeholder, whether they might see some confusion or some different point of view.
Yeah, Dean, go first.
Dean Pemberton, Internet NZ. I think Adam's a little bit right. I mean, we're gonna discuss prop on 111 this afternoon. But those of us that have been here before and are inevitably going to get to the microphone kind of know how the consensus is going to go, right? We've seen it all happen before. We kind of know what consensus looks like. We know what it doesn't look like. And so Adam's point is that a newcomer might find this to be a very strange procedure which isn't written down, and they might find it hard to understand. That's because it is hard to understand. It is a waffly, airy, wave the hands a bit, kind of thing. It isn't a vote. And the reason that we find it hard to explain to people is that it is hard. There are no firm rules. We could establish firm rules, but I would suggest that if we did that, we would get away from a lot of the ability to be flexible about consensus that have served us well at every single meeting I've ever been to. There have certainly been some meetings where you could say, well, technically, if we had a rule, there might not have been consensus, but the feeling of the room was that there was. And I think the more flexibility we have, the more uncomfortable policy people who like everything written out will be, but I think the better for the community it will be. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Izumi.
Izumi, I totally echo with Adam and Dean. And if we say, participation is open, we really have to make sure that it's, the procedure and the concept is clear to newcomers as well. But the issue is, I think my eyes are already too distorted. I've been too soaked in this, policy fora. So I can't really give an objective input whether this makes sense to newcomers or not.
Okay.
And I would suspect newcomers may be a little bit shy to stand up on the microphone and say, hey, this doesn't make sense to me. So what I might suggest is maybe if there are newcomers who are here and, after this, we're going through these policy discussions, feel puzzled, have questions, maybe talk to Masato, Adam, or anybody who's, vocal so that we can share and gather input. What are the kind of questions that newcomers would have?
Okay. Let me ask questions. Sorry, Skip, 1 second. Let me ask a question. Can you raise your hand if you already have led go through whole of policy development process? I'm not asking about web page about PDP. Have you already led policy itself? Please raise your hand if you have. Of course, Adam and me are led. Yeah, that's the situation. It's very few, right? Participants in here have already know what is PDP. But as Izumi said, there is no pointer for newcomers except documents. Okay, go ahead, Skip.
One of the things running business and building large networks that I've learned over the last few years is develop once and use many. I think one of the problems we have here is that this policy process, and a lot of what we do here is very dry. It is very boring to those that don't understand it in some ways, or the nuances. I agree with most of what Dean said and Zumi in that, but I think we need to make it easier. Like you saw how many people have read the PDP. Why, sorry, it's not a why. One of the things I think APNIC should do is is use a little bit of the resources to make this simpler. We could have someone here at this meeting with video, and we've got someone from APNIC taking a lot of photos. We could ask someone, what does consensus mean to you? So imagine if that was what Dean just said before, what I might say what it means, what Azumi, what it means to 10 different people, and recording some of these videos. So for the newcomers, rather than them all descending on Adam or someone else about what it means to them, because it's going to mean different things, there is no reason that we couldn't put some training or sort of videos. I mean, we did this in ISOC, where we've recorded a lot of things, what ISOC means to people. What does the consensus mean to you? What does the development process mean to you? And recording those, and in some different languages, that allow newcomers, so when we're talking about the APNIC meeting pages, what is the consensus? To be frank, I think it's quite boring that that every event that you have to explain what consensus is. I think that is, I'm over it, us wasting so much bloody time repeating the same stupid process stuff, which we could record at one bloody event and stick on the web and say, if you care about this, go read the web page so that you don't have to waste 20, 30 minutes and us talk about this at every single event. This is one of the things that kill us. This is one of the reasons that I remember at New Delhi that half the room wasn't even there and people don't even bother turning up, even though there's hundreds and hundreds of attendees. We need to make it a little more optimized, cleaner, and easier for those people who might find it interesting to get involved, that in their own time before. I mean, there's quite a few new people here, especially from Australia, because that's easier for them to come. And this is an extremely complicated not complicated, it's a process of nuances, and I've had to learn it over the past 6 or so years, that how it works, and I've had to put policies up and they've been knocked down, and I've understood why and changed it. And consensus is one of those complicated things that we seem to discuss it everywhere, and we've got to get over it. And one of the things we can do is simply say there is no defined process. Now, going back to one of the things that Dean said, I'm a process-driven person. I've got a bit of a military background. I like rules and everything else like that. And early on, I was like, there needs to be some rules. I like to see some voting. I like to see some of that. But I've matured over the last couple of years with the APNIC process, because one of the things, and this is not meant to offend anyone in the community, is that the harder the rules are, the easier it is to game this community. Voting blocks, etc. There's so many ways to do it, and the consensus process works for us. It works against any particular location. So whether the conference is held in Thailand or India or Japan or Australia, where there is a large local presence, the actual community having an involvement in a wider things allows no local country to game a process by simply being able to have 300 people on site and skew the entire process. So the consensus process as it stands, and with the chairs and the way the chairs make the decision, and the community and significant opposition or not, that actually works very well, in my opinion, to protect the process. But that is complicated to newcomers. So I believe actually some videos or some material created by APNIC about what that means to you, and so that if they video 5 different people and it's 5 a little bit different opinions, that people can go, okay, I can see that there's different views here on what it means to them and things like that. I just think that we need to stop wasting so much time at these meetings. It's talking about something that I've talked at every single meeting I've been to, and it's just repetitive and a waste of time. And this is one of the reasons that could be actually one of the contributors that there are so few people involved in the process. Is that we talk about same boring stuff. I remember Manila, people putting their hands up and voting about something they weren't even listening to.
We are running into time, so Adam, go ahead. Then, if there is nobody want to say a comment, Naresh, come.
I just have a quick question for the whole room about SIG's proposal for us to videotape different people and have them give their idea. Before I run off and organise for it to be happening at lunchtime, does anyone agree that that's a good idea? Could you just kind of raise your hand? Would other people support that if our consensus explanation was a bunch of videos with people giving different explanations?
Oh, but
I have something to add.
But 1 second, Naresh. I think people raising hand are quite all active participants.
That's a vote, is a consensus.
No, because that's the promotion for newcomers or current non-participants. So I'm not sure it is current. Is that the correct answer or not? But anyway, so go ahead, Naresh, go ahead.
Matter of fact, I second everything whatever Steve has said, minus his unparliamentary expressions. Minus that. All right. Okay. Having said that, I must also add here that our community is an evolving community. We are yet to see the impact across the globe. Many economies are still ignorant to our processes. There is a possibility of a misunderstanding that we have exploited the early mover advantage. To overcome those kind of things, we should really now work upon outreach model. And when I referred in my last intervention that there should be 56 champions, I must correct myself by saying -7, because already 7 national internet registries, they themselves have to do this overcoming of a barrier called language or a localized expertise. So they themselves should do. But the other youngsters or the people from the community on a voluntary basis who should be coming, and rather we should be approaching them and engaging them not only for these kind of barriers like language, but also for the word called consensus. We have to take their engagement also. Instead of asking them to come over here, we should be sending to those 50 or 48 champions saying, do you have your confirmation to this? And we should really take that initiative to arrive at finally what is the policy. Okay. I know it is a little extra effort, but definitely this would bring the true consensus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please make it short.
Yes. So regarding Adam's question about whether the video is useful, the short answer is yes. But if different people say different things, it might confuse people. What is the element? So it might be useful to have like a core point summary from, I don't know, chair or somebody says, okay, these are the common points, and it might be like worth noting or something like that.
Gotcha. So regarding this topic, it seems community doesn't think we need to improve PDP or SIG guideline. Rather, we need to promote more about our PDP to newcomers and also can I say outside? A little bit strange. Maybe people who is not coming right now. Is it okay? Gaurav, go ahead.
Thank you. Gaurav Upadhyay, an ex-policy SIG chair. Listening to this discussion, I have this feeling that, right now we don't have enough policies to discuss. That's why we're trying to create policies that are very, very fine, in line, and then, going and starting discussion. Well, even the proposer is not so sure whether what's right or not right. And it's like open-ended questions. That's why, as a chair, you guys are having really difficult time. When I was the chair, I think I had some really clear-cut policies and clear-cut discussions, and people were either for it or against it, and that was much more easier. And I think, we had this consensus decision. The last time I remember was Hong Kong Apricot, or somewhere before that was when we had this consensus discussion with the chairs, policy SIG chair. Maybe before that, Izumi-san might remember. At the SIG chair meeting, when we had more SIGs. And we discussed about this, and, it's a difficult task. But, I think when there is a really serious policy, so you'll find it much more easier to judge consensus than the current state of policies, If there's too little policies, then maybe we should revive Randy Bush's proposal to kind of shut that down and, do it more stuff when the serious policies are back again. That's what I personally have been thinking, is like the policy we have for this afternoon is all about semantics. It's nothing to do with address policy allocation. That's what I'm thinking. So maybe it's easier when you have serious policies to just consensus. Thank you.
Yeah, actually that's the intention which I asked this topic to the floor. Yeah. Anyway, so we are running out of time, so I'm going to move to next item. Oh, lunchtime? Yeah. So you want to have it after lunch? Yeah, I can fit it in. Okay, so next is lunchtime. So the processing will adjourn. Oh, okay, 1 second. Processing will adjourn from 2 p.m. in this afternoon. And Mayan, go ahead.
Okay, this is Mayan. A housekeeping announcement. As a general reminder, please cast your vote before you go and have your lunch. So enjoy your lunch. The voting desk is just outside the room there, and we will close the election by 2 p.m. So I'd like to ask an election scrutineer to be at the voting desk by 2 p.m. Thank you.
So morning session is adjourned, but let's meet again at 2 p.m. in here. Thank you very much.